Hi there and welcome back to the channel. Now, as I said in one of my previous videos, I'm learning to fly, and this is the plane that I'm normally learning to fly in. It's a conventional petrol-powered aircraft, and I can't help having a little pang of guilt every time I step into this aircraft, given I own an electric car and I want to do my bit for the planet. So today we're going to fly in an electric aircraft, and we're going to have a full flying lesson in that aircraft to see how it compares to flying in this thing here, which is going to be, I'm sure, a very different experience. Right, well, we're at Damyns Hall aerodrome, which is only 75 miles away from where we live, but it's been a bit of a journey. It's taken us a few hours to get here because of some traffic. I was supposed to be meeting Claire here somewhere at 10. It's now nearly 11:15, so we better go and find Claire, see where she is, and then we can go fly in the electric aircraft. So let's go find Claire. Flying with you today in the electric Velus?
Yes, indeed. First of all, we'll just go through bits of the briefing.
All right, okay, let's get into that.
Welcome to Damyns Hall.
Thank you very much. Good to be here.
Today we're going to fly the Pipestrel Velus Electro. It's powered by two 11 kilowatt battery packs, which give it a maximum voltage of 394 volts.
Yeah.
Each battery pack is made up of 1152 cells, so think of like an AA battery, just very slightly bigger. When the aircraft is monitoring things like state of health, it's looking at the lowest cell of that 1152 within that battery pack.
Yeah.
It was the world's first certified electric aircraft, and to date is the only certified electric aircraft.
Fantastic. Presumably it can fly on one battery, so if a pack was
It can, yes, just with a limitation of 40 kilowatts maximum power instead of typically 64 being the maximum. It will use three-phase mains charging the DC batteries, and it uses the inverter to power up the AC motor, which is an axial flux type. And we can monitor this. We've got the EPSI 570, which is the electric propulsion system interface, as you can see there.
Right.
And that will give us things like flight time remaining, the state of charge, state of health, everything that we need to know about the propulsion system of the aircraft.
Yeah.
As you can see on here, because it's modelled on the Pipestrel Velus aircraft, which is pretty much the same airframe, same wings and things.
Yeah.
It's just, as you can see there, the biggest difference is it's a lot slower. So 163 maximum as against 108 knots.
Yeah, yeah.
VNO speed, quite a bit faster. But the manoeuvring speed that we'd be typically doing things like steep turns that would be limited to is 100 knots on both.
Right.
So for manoeuvres, it's not really compromised at all, only really as a touring aircraft.
Great for learning then, great for doing all of the kind of stuff you would be doing.
Brilliant for circuits, brilliant for effective controls, climbing, descending and things. Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
Things like the flap limiting speeds, exactly the same because it is the same airframe. There's just a very minor difference on stall speeds on the aircraft.
Right.
So stall speed...
a bit lower.
Yeah.
Okay.
So 46 knots with flaps, 53 flaps up.
Yeah.
On our flight, once we've lined up on the runway and we take off, we rotate at 50 knots.
Same as in my Robin. Yeah.
Once we get to 57 knots, we hold that. That's the best angle climb.
Yeah.
Once we get to 200 feet, we do something called flow up, which is similar to, you might be used to felt, for instance. So flaps up, we reduce the power then back to 48 kilowatts.
Okay.
So round about 2/3 maximum. And then we go on to a VY climb. Best rate of climb.
That's a little bit different to what I'm used to. We're certainly used to taking the flaps up at like 200 feet, which is actually 400 feet, but depending
keeping the power on.
But yeah, we're keeping the power on until we go up to something like, I don't know, 2,000-3,000 feet, and then we kind of level off off the climb and bring the power back then. So that's interesting. And is that different? Is that the same on the normal Pipestrel?
Even in the petrol Pipestrel, because that's got a variable pitch prop. This one's got a fixed.
Right.
But on the variable pitch prop, we will still bring the propeller advance back and bring the manifold pressure back on the climb. Typically, we'll be taking off 64 kilowatts. We've got the horsepower equivalents in there, so around about 85, 86 horsepower. Once we're in the maximum continuous power climb, 48 kilowatts, 64 horsepower.
Yep.
As we said just before, maximum on a single battery, 40 kilowatts, but it's all indicated on the EPC.
Yep.
And then in the cruise, it's back all the way to somewhere between 20 and 25 knots, depending on what we want to do. So typically we'll be using 22, 23 kilowatts, somewhere in the middle today. Right. So using around about 30 horsepower to stay straight and level. Compared with something like your Robin that would be using, say, 90% of its power to stay in the cruise.
Yeah, interesting. And that's where that efficiency of the airframe is coming in to kind of help that, I guess. Yeah. I'm guessing that just from what you've said already, this electric propulsion system interface is pretty much going to substitute all of my oil pressure, engine, fuel, all of those kinds of checks.
Yes.
Will be
everything is centralised on that one instrument.
Right, interesting.
Also, we'll have a look at some common handling errors in the brief. First one I've put up there is anxiety. Pretty much like with electric cars, you get range anxiety, even more so in an aircraft because you can't just stop and ask the AA to tell you why.
No. Although hopefully if the battery does run out, the wings don't fall off, so we'll be okay.
Exactly. And it's a very good glider. It's got a 15:1 glide ratio.
Yeah, wow.
While we're on to that, in fact, try this one next time you're in the Robin. So when you're over the numbers, we can close the throttle at 1,400 feet. We can enter a rate 1 turn to the right, then round to the left, extend by 10 seconds or so whilst putting flaps 1 down. On base, flaps 2, and typically we will still need to side slip to get in. We'll still be too high.
Wow.
Whereas typically in something like a Cessna, you'd have to be at about somewhere between 2,500 and 3,000 feet to be able to do that.
Yeah, that's incredible.
So it's a very, very good glider.
Wow. And that actually comes off in the look, because it does share a lot of very visual similarities to what you see in a glider. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's very much in Pipestrel's DNA that they are built to be very good gliders.
Yeah, amazing.
That's where the company history lies.
Right. I didn't know that. Interesting.
Typically, if you're very anxious, you might want to make a high approach, which would then result in a go around. Worst thing that you can do. In fact, fly even further than your usual circuit, get established and make sure that you're following the correct approach speed, which is 58 to 60 knots. Yeah. Even at 30%, you will still have enough for a go around, one at least. Yeah. The other one is making too fast an approach. So if the approach speed is more than 65 knots, can't get it below 65 knots, don't attempt to touch down. We would just go around as early as we can. Reason being is we use about another 250 metres of runway for every 10 knots or so. Yeah. So
you need a very long runway.
We're talking about 125 metres, 150 metres by that point. And on a short runway like this, it's unacceptable.
It's bad news, yeah.
Way to get the speed off is a bit counterintuitive by pitching up and actually getting into a sink. So you're on the back of the drag curve.
Right, yeah.
We teach side slipping on the aircraft as it's got a maximum flap setting of 19 degrees. It's still very slippery even with full flaps.
So even with the full flaps in, you need to put a bit of slip in just to really get into the airflow.
Correct, yeah.
Right. Wow.
And that's it really. They're the big talking points really on the aircraft.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just want to do a pre-flight of the aircraft.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you'd like to come around to this side, we'll do the internal side first. You okay? That's on the blooper reel. So this is the rear battery cavity. So one of the first things that we do is make sure that we haven't had any leaks in the cooling system.
Right. Okay, so it's a water-cooled or a liquid-cooled battery.
Liquid-cooled battery, yeah. This is the highest point of the system, and this is the point that you would top up the battery system if you did have any sign of any leaks.
What header tank is it there at the back?
Yeah.
Right.
So looking at this sight glass, you can see that there's tiny little bubbles, but no significant bubbles. If there were any significant bubbles, we would need to top up before we go flying.
Yeah. And is that the colour of the fluid, or is that just it's a purple pipe?
No, it really is the colour of the fluid, because it's 50% glycol and water solution.
Cool. You actually see a lot more of it than you would on when you get in a piston engine, you just kind of check the oil and
pretty much,
that's it.
While we're inside, master switch goes on. Just make sure that nothing occurs on the annunciator untoward. So now we can go on to the EvIain. So what this is telling you is you've got your kilowatt setting, which is what we fly on rather than RPM.
Yeah.
You have got your RPM also displayed.
Right. But they're related, presumably, quite. Are they related?
Not directly.
Okay.
It's quite strange because although it is fixed pitch, it's very synthetic in its operation.
Right.
So there'd be times that you would see the kilowatt setting being constant, but the RPM might end up fluctuating.
Right. Okay, it's interesting. I just assume sort of more RPM, more kilowatts. But I guess it's load.
Well, if you think about even on a piston-engined aircraft, you will have the throttle set at a particular setting, but if you're climbing, the RPM will decrease and increase, and it's no different on this. But where it's not directly linked, because the propeller is free windmilling effectively, it's not exactly like a fixed pitch, but it's as close as it can be. So we've also got our battery information. As we said there, 394 is the maximum, and it's currently 393 today.
Brilliant.
And even though we've got the two main batteries, that has also got to feed an auxiliary battery, which is located down there.
Right. And that's an auxiliary battery for the equipment, or for the engine?
For the avionics, which is fed from the two main batteries, emulating an alternator. What we've got down here in the bottom left, we've got the temperature of the front and the rear batteries. It's not online at the moment until we've got battery enable and power enable on. But then we've got the inverter temperature and the motor temperature. In here, once battery enable is on, we will see that climb up to show us what our maximum remaining flight time is. And that's looking at a fairly economic flight. In reality, we still need to, as it's an A to A flight, keep 10 minutes reserve minimum. The other area that we've got here that's blank at the moment, fortunately, is if any errors occur. So we get textual errors of what's happened
so all
to the
your
aircraft.
warnings will come up in that area?
Yes, so a diagnosis of what the problem is. On page 2 here, we've got systems information. So we've got front battery on the left and the rear on the right. Tells you battery status, state of health, as I said, with the battery cells. So that's saying that the lowest one is on 80% of its maximum health. We don't know what the average is. That isn't displayed. The maximum could be 100 still. It might just be that one cell that's gone down to 80. And then we've got the temperature, the minimum and maximum voltage of the battery, the current voltage. So you've also got that on that screen. That gives you the average of the two. The current currently being sent through to the engine, 0 as you would expect right now. Balancing, because you can balance between batteries, it gives you that information, and then you've got the coolant temperature. You've also got that the power lever hasn't seen 0, and it doesn't do that until power enable is on anyway, but until it's seen 0 it can't apply power. This is currently telling us that the motor is inactive. It will give you the temperatures of the motor and inverter. Then you've got the coolant temperature, and Hobbs appears when battery is enabled. And then you've got a little bit of information on the inverter.
Hobbs?
So basically the engine life. So basically, as well as the block time, we register how many hours the aircraft's flown. Okay, so we've gone through that. That all looks okay. Avionics goes on, and then we get the final three avionics there and moving map display. So this is a secondary RPM and kilowatts for you on that side.
Yeah.
Variometer, or VSI.
Yeah.
And then we've got the Canardia instrument, which can do pretty much job of several instruments. I was going to
say, that's really impressive actually. I thought when it came on, I didn't clock before it came on that it was a digital instrument, because obviously the Robin is just all old school.
All steam gauges.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. I was actually going to say, oh, they're all steam gauges over this side, and then you turned it on and it's like, nope.
Well, these two are.
Yeah.
So we've got our ground speed as well as our air speed.
Yeah.
We've got the artificial horizon in the background of this. These are 15-degree increments up the top there for our angle of bank.
Yeah.
This is our compass heading up the top there. As I said, airspeed, we've got our altitude there. I've set it at 60 feet, which is QNH here at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fair to say I'm used to none of that.
We'll do the sort of seat layout and everything once we're in, I think.
Yeah.
But just to give you a little bit of heads up, so fixed seat, adjustable pedals.
Okay.
So you pull the ball up towards you, and then that pulls the pedals, and to get them away from you, you just put positive pressure whilst you're pulling the ball towards you.
Yeah, cool.
Got ventilation on the door there, and we've also got one above the head, so we can set those open.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll have a walk around to the aircraft as well.
Yeah.
So we'll start from the nose and come back round to it again. So first thing, having a look at the spinner, just make sure that there's no damage.
Yeah.
If we look down the prop blades, if you'd like to have a look from your angle, you just make sure that there's no sort of loose blades. It's ground adjustable.
It's very light, isn't it?
Very.
It's very. I mean, you can hardly turn because you're obviously turning a whole engine and pistons.
Yeah, I mean, if you're doing this to a light aircraft, and we do have to do that for the Rotax 914 engined aircraft.
And can you, because it feels very fragile, one of the things I would be doing here with some part of the front of the aircraft is testing the oleo on the suspension and stuff like that.
And that's one thing that we can't do on this aircraft, because you haven't got a prop shaft as such. You've just got the electric motor on there, and you put a lot of force if you push down on there. So the way that we test that is we hold the tower down and then look forward and look for some compression from the nose wheel.
Right.
Okay, just make sure we haven't got anything nesting, just as you would do in any piston engine aircraft.
I noticed there's an additional one down the side, is that? Yeah.
So that's battery cooling inlet for the rear battery, and that's one for the front. So having a look on this side, we can see the front end of the cooling system. So just feeling in there, making sure we haven't got any leaks.
Right, yeah, so this is the equivalent of checking your oil, isn't it?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
No visible problems with the nose leg. Unfortunately, we can't see the tyre because we've got the spats on this one.
Yes, same on mine, the one I fly at.
This is the charging port.
Oh, okay. Wow. Oh, it's right. Okay. It's very similar looking, but different to an electric car.
Okay, so the nose is okay. So we'll just continue on to the right-hand side to make sure that that's latchable. And while that's in the latch position, we just make sure the hinge is okay. No blockages from the wing drain points.
Yeah.
Looking at the underside of the wing, doesn't appear to be any blemishes. Just having a look down the pitot for any blockages.
So you have a pitot.
That on. We have a pitot, but it isn't heated.
It isn't heated. So does that limit the types of temperature the aircraft can fly in then?
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, we can't really fly this in freezing conditions. We can only.
No, that makes perfect sense.
And this is a Day VMC aircraft, so we wouldn't ever go into cloud, for instance.
Yeah.
So it's because of that, it's unheated. Okay, so just looking at the leading edge condition and surfaces of the wing.
You're just looking for dents and things.
Correct,
anything that's sort of really.
Then we come on to the wingtip, and as you may notice, no lights as well.
Huh.
So it really is a stripped back aircraft.
Wow. So have you got a light in the middle? Have you got any?
No lights.
Wow.
Then we make sure that we've got full movement from the flaperons.
Yeah.
It can just overcome on the controls.
And they've even got a kind of material between the.
Yeah. So we just make sure that that's sort of laminar.
So you don't get anything kind of falling in between? Or?
It's just really the efficiency of the aircraft as well. Makes it as streamlined as possible. To the right-hand side, we've got the ELT aerial.
Right.
Looking down the right-hand side of the fuselage as well, we've got the battery exhaust for the rear battery in that place. So it's just a sticker.
Right.
So if there's any sign of overheat, this sticker burns off. So it gives you a visual clue. We've also got one of the static ports down this side, and we just make sure that that's unblocked.
Yeah. And you've still got two, one either side, static ports?
Yes. Yeah, just in case one becomes blocked, we've got the other one.
Yeah.
Undercarriage we can't really do much with.
No.
We've got spats on here, just making sure that the main bolt has got its blob of paint on there.
Yeah.
And just having a feel of the undercarriage leg and making sure that there's no cracks present. Okay, going up to the rear of the aircraft, we've got the T-tail system. So we just look for any cracks. We've even got sealing tape around there to make it a bit more aerodynamic. So just making sure the crimp ends are nice and tight, and we've still got the blob of paint on there.
Place, yeah.
And that's present on that one. Making sure that the tail skid isn't tied down. And this is where we can test the nose wheel oleo by just lifting up and just noting that we get some bounce. And we can just test full deflection of the rudder as well while it's up in the ground.
Yeah.
Okay, looking at the actual elevator itself, we've got this system of guide rods here and the physical connection to the controls here. Similar on the wing, except it's got the no gap on there. Okay, I'm just going to bring the tower down now so we can see the top side. So we're just making sure that the plug's present, making sure that the seal is undamaged, and just looking for general abnormalities.
I can't believe how you can just it's such a different shape aircraft. You can just kind of manhandle the thing around.
Yeah, I mean it's relatively light. I mean it's 600 kilos maximum takeoff weight. At the moment it's 420 something.
Yeah, we're making up the bulk of the weight, aren't we?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, and the batteries.
Yeah.
I mean the battery system is 150 kilos of the 424, I think it is.
Yeah.
So as we carry along here, just making sure the temperature probe is undamaged, and all of these screws are done up.
So that's the temperature probe, is it?
It is.
Oh, okay. It's quite unassuming, actually, isn't it?
Yeah, and in a good position because it's not going to suffer from sort of too much direct sunlight from there, but it's still in the airflow.
Yeah.
Just making sure that this is unblocked, which is the rear battery inlet. Same with the undercarriage leg this side, just making sure that we haven't got any damage on there. That's what we can really do on that side.
Yeah.
Just make sure that this is latchable. And then that can go back open again. Carrying on around the wing. So we'll just have a look, make sure that there's no lateral movement. That's good. Onto the wing tip, just making sure there's no damage. A little bit of hanger rash already. And looking along the leading edge for any issues.
Yeah.
So, looks good to me.
Yeah, looks good. My head didn't make any dents. So that's good.
And I will just show you how to get in.
So is there a technique in that?
Yeah, it's never glamorous.
No.
Okay, so if you sit diagonally out and then just watch your head on the top there, don't put any weight on the spat because it's very, very lightweight. That's it. And then just watch your head on the spar on the way in. Okay, it's a 4-point harness, so do your lap belt first.
And then it wants to be in the centre, so kind of there.
Shoulder straps into the middle positions.
Make sure that they are.
Confusingly, there's 3 holes for them to go in, depends on what's most comfortable.
Cool. So just before we go flying, I want to give a massive shout out to Claire and Deepak at flyaboutaviation.com. They really helped me make this video possible. I want to send them a huge thanks. I did pay for this as a normal flying lesson, but clearly making a video takes a lot longer than your kind of just hour, 2 hour flying lesson would. They spent a vast amount of the day with me, so I really appreciate that. There is no commercial linkage here. I'm not getting any money for promoting them. I'm just really grateful that they allowed me to spend as much time with them as they did, because clearly they do have a business to run. And I just think it's a really great thing to see electric aviation taking off, hence why I'm making this video. So with that out of the way, let's go flying. Intercom going.
Okay, comms check.
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can't hear you.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yep, I can hear you.
Oh, brilliant. Very good. Okie dokie. So altimeter, radio and intercom, and frequencies are...
Yeah, so we've got Hornchurch traffic on 119.555, and we've got Southend approach on 130.78.
Okay, very good. The transponder is on and on 7,000.
Going on?
Transponder default 7,000.
7,000, we've got a listening squawk, but in reality we're probably going to stay on Damyns Hall and 7,000.
Yep.
Mode ACS, so it's on.
Okay, there's a GPS on and acquired location.
Okay, so we've got 2 GPSs, and I'm going to use both of them.
Brilliant. Definitely don't have this one in my checklist for the HR200.
And that should get us our location.
Is that
hopefully.
Is that Sky Demon, is it?
It is Sky Demon, yeah. And it's got us on the ground here at Damyns Hall.
Fantastic. Flaps check up. Where are you? Oh, so okay, it's a handle.
Flaps 1, flaps 2, so that does get in the way a little bit on flaps 2.
Yeah.
Flaps 1, and then back down to flap 0.
Okay, trim is neutral.
Okay, and we don't need to go to extremities because that gets done on the first one of the day.
Right.
So we just make sure that the motor is active. Yes, it is.
Okay, mine's just a wheel, so that's very different.
Yeah, so we've got electric trim but manual flaps on this, which is different.
Yeah. There's electric flaps on there. Yeah. Okay, so trim's good. EPSI.
Okay,
SOC.
so we've got the state of charge.
Yeah.
So 99 and 99.
Yeah.
Auxiliary battery is 13.2, so it's above 13. We can go flying. Temperatures are all in the green.
Yep.
If you go over to the systems page, we can see the battery is now ready and the state of health is 80.
Right. Right, okay.
Just turn those down a second.
Yeah, okay. So you've had to go through the couple of menus to get each of these different bits and pieces.
Yeah, so it's left page and right page, and it's highlighted up the top there, which page you're in.
Right, fantastic. Battery...
Okay, so that's that one there. So that gets the cooling system running.
Yeah, I can hear that. Note time and takeoff Hobbs reading.
Okay, so we've done that.
Okay, power lever cut-off position.
Yeah, so it's all the way to
the back.
If it was in that position and we put power enable on, nothing would happen. We'd have to reset it.
Right, okay, so safety feature. Shout clear prop before using the power. Oh, shout clear prop before using power, right, okay, cool. Clear prop! Sorry, Michelle, if you were listening to that. Power N on.
Okay.
So this is the motor power, is it?
This is motor power going on, and I'll close the door at this stage. And that is locked.
Great. EPSI, check battery active.
Battery is active.
Battery is active. Power lever set to approximately 200 RPM.
That's one that we've added recently because, of course, we're on the apron here. People could be walking about. They haven't heard an aircraft start.
Yeah.
So what we do is we just set that just to get the prop turning very, very slightly.
Yeah.
A couple of hundred RPM or so is fine.
Yeah, it makes sense because obviously once you shout a clear prop, you're going to have to keep shouting it otherwise, aren't you?
Very true.
Yeah. Okay, radio check if possible.
Okay, so there is other people about and Deepak's on the radio as well, so we'll do that. Hornchurch traffic, Golf Oscar, Golf Romeo November for radio check.
Loud and clear here by the runway side. How me?
You're 5 also. Golf Romeo November.
Excellent. Parking brake release. It's released.
Okay, so it's already released.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll go through the taxi checks
Yep.
as well while we're moving. So I'll just get us moving and then I'll take control and do a little bit of taxiing.
Lovely.
Full traffic, that was full traffic. Tiger Moth Golf Kilo.
Coming round to the right, ball goes to the left.
Yep.
Come out to the left, ball should come out to the right. Numbers are decreasing.
Yep.
And as we turn to the right, the numbers should increase.
Yep.
I'm just going to get us going towards the sea over there. And then I'll check my brakes. My brakes are working fine. Okay, when I give you control, if you'd like to throttle up, go forward and then just test your brakes for me, please.
Alright, so we'll throttle up. Quite much on the throttle, does it?
It probably needs about 10 kilowatts or so just to get moving on this sort of length of grass.
Oh yeah. To do a bit of left right.
Yeah, try a little bit of left and right and then just bring the power back. That's it. Back to idle. Then come round to the right. That's it. And then if you'd like to test your brakes for me, please. Okay, your brakes have brought us to a stop.
Feet were just off the... There, so that's better for position now.
Okay, I have control.
Cool.
Okay, so I'm just going to position us as the Tiger Moth's gone. We'll go down the bottom.
Yep.
Confirm in November, taxi into the 2-1 hold. Now this is the thing that freaks a lot of people out.
Yeah.
We're moving, yet the prop has
Prop
stopped.
stopped, yeah. Because I mean, when you said go back to idle, I was thinking, right, okay, so is idle actually right back? Because it's right back is actually off, isn't it? The prop's not going.
Exactly.
Yeah, that is very strange. I'm sure it didn't take you long to get used to it, though. Or did it?
No, I knew what to expect, because when you go on to this aircraft, because officially it is an SEP aircraft, but you have to do differences training.
But yeah,
and the differences training is a little bit more involved than just changing types.
Yeah,
because it is a different powertrain.
Yeah, absolutely. Good.
Okay, so we're ready to do the motor run-up area.
Okay, so rudder and steering correct operation. Do you mind if I? Bit of quick.
Helicopter traffic, this is Golf Romeo November on the ground at Damyns Hall. We're currently just doing power checks and then we'll be departing off to the east.
So we'll be able again shortly. I'll give you a shout and I'll listen out for you when you're up.
Roger, Golf Romeo November. Okay, so motor run-up area, parking brake, so we'll just hold it on the toe brakes.
Yep.
Then it's the EPSI. We need to check the battery temperature. So it's at least 10 degrees, it's 21 today.
Yep.
If it's too cold, we can't apply.
Oh, you got the actual figures at the top there.
Top.
Yeah. Check battery temperature.
So
throttle advance fully 50 kilowatts plus, or above 50 kilowatts.
Yeah, so we go to full power, just see what our takeoff power is.
Okay.
Okay, so if you'd like to do the honours, I'm holding us on the brakes.
Okay, good.
Okay, so power is building, we've got at least 50, so go full throttle. 64 kilowatts seen, and all the way back. At no point did we get any indications on the annunciator and no over temperatures.
And all the way back?
Successful. Yes, all the way back to cut off.
Yep.
So now we go on to the more familiar pre-takeoff vital actions.
Yep. Yeah.
So controls full and free all the way around the box, as you're used to on the Robin.
Absolutely. And then I'll give the rudders a little bit of a...
No, because you can't dry steer on these.
Because the... Yeah, right.
Yep.
That's, yeah, okay, that's different. Right, okay,
so we're on vital actions,
right.
doors and harnesses closed and secure.
Yep.
So my one's closed secure, your harness
round.
is
Harnesses are...
So you may just want to tighten it up a little bit. No, that's out.
That's,
Okay.
that's that. Harnesses, flaps set for takeoff, which is...
First position?
Yep.
So takeoff position, landing position will be on two unless we've got severe crosswind,
Yep.
and then we will use one stage.
Yep. And then...
And trim is set neutral.
Neutral. Actually, I can't see that. Oh yeah, right, it's the sunlight on the trim gauge. Trim set neutral, takeoff plan, ready and understood. Presumably that is, we're going to take off down the runway, and if we have any problems, we're going to fly straight ahead, look for somewhere safe and nice to land.
Correct, so we'll be taking off, I will be doing takeoff on runway 21.
Yep.
If we have any problems on the ground run, I will close the throttle and stop. Once we become airborne, I will fly the circuit. If there's any point that you want to come back to the airfield, just let me know, that's fine. If we get airborne and a major problem develops, I will try and find a field into wind. On the takeoff run, there's a golf course just beyond those trees. That will be my primary point that I will aim for. Once we get to 700 feet with this aircraft, with its really good glide ratio, we can actually do a turn back onto the runway, providing nobody has called final by that point.
Yep, onto the reverse runway.
Yes.
Yes, yep.
Land on 03, hopefully.
Yep.
Okay, if all goes well, we'll climb off to the east at 1200 feet, and we'll do some manoeuvres before coming back to the airfield and doing circuits.
Good.
Any questions?
No, I think that's it. Yeah,
I'm happy. We check the approach and just make sure that we're squawking.
Yep. It's a bit harder to look out on this one because you've got a wing in the way.
Yeah, very much so. So what we're going to do is we taxi forward, we'll turn off to the right here.
Yep.
Confirming November, checks complete and lining up runway 21. So nobody on late downwind, nobody on base leg.
No.
And we just check the final approach above the trees there.
There's that tree just on the...
We're quite lucky because a lot of aircraft being vintage types, they will be high up. I can actually see something on final. Traffic inbound to Damyns Hall on the centre line. Are you inbound for the overhead or are you on final?
Golf Alpha Yankee, we're inbound overhead to descend for 21 left.
Roger, Golf Romeo November, understood. We'll be lining up runway 21 and holding.
We have you inside, clear.
Yeah, much too high for final approach, but then again they might be doing PFLs.
Yeah. Straight on the radio though. No ground.
No. Well, it's essential where we're sort of governing ourselves.
Yeah.
Confirm in November, lined up runway 21 and holding. Okay, so while we're here, wind is more or less straight down the runway. Confirm in November, rolling runway 21. Okay, power is good.
Yep.
Airspeed's alive. We just check the temperatures, not temperatures and pressures. And there we go, 50 knots.
Traffic, helicopter November 02, everyone east side of the M25 on the climb out to Damyns Hall overhead, westbound visual Alpha Yankee.
And Golf Romeo November, just lifting off runway 21.
And Alpha Yankee, we're turning crosswind for 21 left.
Okay, 200 feet, so I'm bringing the power back and flaps are going up. And then it goes green to show that we're in a safe range.
Yep.
And left, this side of the lake. Confirm in November, crosswind 21.
And we have you inside.
helicopter.
Yep, got it. Confirm in November, visual with helicopter traffic.
Thank you, Pipestrel. South Yankee now, downwind 21 for low approach and go around.
Okay, 1,200 feet, and I'm leveling out there, bringing the power back to 22 kilowatts. Confirm in November, South Buckinghamshire, 1,200 feet, and we'll be remaining in the local area. Okay, so we're going to go to the south, so when I give you control, if you'd like to do a turn off to the right, so where it's high wing, always lift the wing first, so bank to the left a little bit first, and you can see it's clear, and then we can go into the right hand turn.
Okay, and do you use the rudder on the turn as well?
Yep, so you see the balls out to the right, so just push on the ball a little bit, just to coordinate the turn. And level
go around 21.
Okay, come back on the stick a little bit. That's it, so that's approximately our straight and level attitude there.
Right, yeah. Yeah, we've got to get used to a different view out of the front. You can't see the cowling.
No, it's quite nose up on this aircraft. But this is our typical cruise speed, around about 82 knots in the aircraft. Right. So it's not exactly a rocket ship.
Yeah, I don't need a rocket ship right now. Definitely, I think learners, no rocket ships. There's plenty of going on in my mind, just learning all the experience rather than just...
Okay, if you'd like to look to the left first under the wing, so lift the right, lift left wing, make sure it's clear, and then we can do a turn to left.
Yeah, okay.
So we'll make this a 360 degree turn.
All the way around?
Yep, and you just need a bit of back pressure because we're now descending.
Then sinking a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, keep going
nudge the
around.
power up just a little bit more.
Actually, I should use my other hand.
Okay, keep coming round to the left. One of the oddities of this aircraft, because it is quite quiet, is the birds will come a lot closer in this aircraft than they will. So keep coming round to the left. Trying to avoid that dump just down there, because you've got a lot of seagulls.
Yeah. And just level out to sort of facing the Thames?
Face south on Tilbury. Okay, so roll out on Tilbury. As we're a little bit low, let's climb now. So adding power first, so just bring this up to about 35 kilowatts for the climb. There we go.
Yep, at 35.
Nose up to 75 knots. Our best rate of climb.
Oh, you can really do a lot of nose up, can't you, before it?
Oh yes.
Wow.
So nose up once more.
Yeah,
And we just hold 75 knots.
Yeah,
It's a little bit of right rudder as well because it's a higher power setting.
Yeah, got that.
There we go.
There we go.
So we're at least a 1,000 foot above all these houses.
Yeah.
The built up area. Okay, so we can level out there. So attitude power trim.
Bring it down. Wow, that is very sensitive.
Yeah.
And then bring the power back.
Yes, bring it back to 22 kilowatts. And that's a good cruise setting for us.
Right, Yankee, downwind 21 left to land.
Getting used to the sensitivity on this throttle is, there we go, 22. Airspeed's a bit high. Be around 80?
Yeah, 82 knots is perfect at about 22.
Okay.
What we'll do is we'll go down to Tilbury, Gravesend, Riverside, and then we'll head back up to the circuit.
Is there a vertical? Because I've just realised vertical speed is incorporated into.
So you do get a trend meter there, it's a pink dot, but you also get the vertical speed indicator in there as well.
Right. Okay.
So generally, if it's 100, 150, we wouldn't associate that with a climb or a descent. That's just.
Yeah. And this meter here is also vertical speed, is it?
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's indicating that we're now
in a descent.
400.
Yeah.
That's it. That's a straight and level attitude.
There we go. Yeah, just looking down, expecting to see certain controls and dials, and they're in a different place. Yeah.
Okay, I'm just going to demonstrate a 60-degree turn if you're happy to.
Yeah. Do you want me to take it through?
Control.
You control. Yeah.
Okay. So going to look under the right wing first. Make sure traffic. And the good thing with this aircraft, in a turn to the right, if you look above your head, you'll be able to see into the turn. So you can see any traffic.
Yeah.
If you see anything, let me know, please.
No, we're good.
Okay, so it's no big deal a 45-degree turn, really.
Wow.
But of course, being high wing, that's just one of the things that you need to look out for.
Yeah.
So in the left wing, I can do the same thing, looking out.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're level at 1300 feet on cruise setting. So we can carry on to the north, maybe up to Brentwood, which is that hill in the distance there.
Okay, so I take control?
You have control?
I have control. And Brentwood's...
Can you see those white buildings up on the hill, sort of just off to the left, just a few degrees there? So
yeah, I think so.
They might need to track just to the left them a little bit, because the wind's going to blow us that way.
Yeah.
I can see we've got quite a hefty tailwind at the moment. Our ground speed's 97 knots, and we're
you can feel it being blown around a little bit.
We've got 17 knots on the tail at the moment. Although Sky Demon isn't reporting our wind.
We want to keep a heading. We just get that in the bubble. Bit of rudder. Would that be the same? Like
yes,
if you want to keep a heading, you just get that rudder in.
For keeping a heading, keep the wings level. Note what the heading is.
Yeah.
So looking sort of more or less straight ahead from your position, not the centre of the aircraft.
Yeah.
I can see that we're tracking towards those buildings.
Yeah.
And then just as necessary, just keep the ball in the middle, just to sort of keep it in balance.
Yeah.
I'm just going to add a little bit more throttle because we're at 20. Otherwise, it's going to be a little bit too nose up, and you're not going to be able to see as much.
Yeah.
There's the aforementioned seagulls flying around at
Yeah. I'm amazed how.
Normally they'd be gone by the time you're that close.
We did have an osprey once. It wasn't very interested in us, and it was just kind of up there, and that was quite good. But no, it was at 4,500 feet. So the nose did dip quite a bit, just going from 21 to 22. It kind of did level it off.
Oh, it's noticeable.
Yeah,
even if I set 25 kilowatts. So we can have a slightly lower nose altitude, and we should be travelling along at about 88 knots.
It's really pronounced how much that changes the attitude.
As a trainer, that is a good.
Yeah. I suppose that gets you used to that kind of physics that's going on.
Yeah, and pitch attitudes and things.
Yeah.
If you did have partial failure, and you know particular settings are going to give you a particular speed, you can then. Try and rely on that.
Yeah.
Of course, you've also got Sky Demon, so you can cheat a little bit.
Yeah,
it's a good skill to learn.
Yeah, no. Do you want me to come back on the power a little bit?
Oh no, this is fine.
Yep.
Got a bit of nose down. Okay, so we're coming to the north of our training area up by Brentwood as we're crossing the railway line. So if we have a look under the left wing, make sure it's clear, and then we can do a turn to the left.
Okay, turn to the left.
Yep. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set direct to, and a bit more back pressure.
Yep.
So now I've got a bearing for Damyns Hall and our distance. So when I'm performing A-to-A flights in this aircraft, I just make sure that within, when we get down to 50%, we've got 5 miles range.
Yep.
So we're 4 miles at the moment. So what we'll do is we'll join, and we're doing overhead join, I think, as we've got the battery power.
Yep.
And we'll do a few circuits.
Brilliant.
Okay, so if you'd like to select 35 kilowatts again, and we'll climb up to the overhead.
Okay, powering up.
Which is 1,400 feet.
31.
And our heading's good at the moment.
33, 34, 35, 35.
And then just raise the nose to 75. And I'll just give them a call. Okay, traffic, Golf Romeo November is inbound 3 miles to the northeast, and we'll be joining overhead 1,400 feet.
Okay, we'll be standing halfway down the runway for...
Roger, Golf Romeo November.
I'm too used to holding the ball of the throttle on the Robin. If you do it on this, it's all over the place, isn't it?
It's a very sensitive throttle. Okay, right, it's clear under our right wing. If you can start a turn off to the right now, 15 degrees.
Okay.
Angle of bank. That's it. And a bit more right rudder. It's a little bit steep, just come around to left now. That's it. Round to left. Keep going round to left.
Okay.
That's it.
Sorry, did you say left turn?
Yeah, left a little bit more. That's it, so we've got Damyns Hall on the nose there, so we just need to gain another 200 feet.
Oh yeah, I see it.
Back to the climb.
Yep.
Okay, and round to left.
Yep.
That's it, 1,400 feet, so I'm just going to bring the power back now.
Okay.
And if you get the attitude back on the horizon. There. Okay, I have control.
Oh, your control?
Thanks. Okay, so we're 2 miles now from the overhead. Right, no other traffic seen. As it's a bit blustery today, I'm not going to do our engine failure join that we can do, our figure of 8,
okay.
Unfortunately. But looking out for other traffic. Okay, so we're now on the dead side of the airfield. From November, overhead 1,400 feet and descending dead side for 2-1. Which in itself can be problematic because we've got to lose quite a bit of height.
Yeah.
By rights, we should be over the opposite runway numbers at 1,000 feet, but the aircraft is not going to descend, so we could side slip.
Wow, that feels really extreme, doesn't it?
It's not the most comfortable, but it's a good way of getting down quite fast.
Yeah.
Even then, we're only descending at 500 feet per minute.
Yeah.
Golf Romeo November, crosswind for 2-1, descending to downwind. Okay, we're now at circuit height. So we can come out the slit now. And it all gets a bit more comfortable again.
Yeah.
Okay, brakes off and just making sure that that one's forward.
Yep.
Okay, indications are in the green. We've got enough charge for a go-around, and that's what we're assuming. We're going to do a low approach on this one.
Yep.
So this will be flapless, fairly high-speed approach.
Yep.
And seatbelt secure for touch and go. Well, low and go in this case.
Yep.
From November, late downwind 2-1 for high-speed approach. Even though it's a high-speed approach, I'm closing the throttle here.
You're literally 0 kilowatts.
0 kilowatts,
wow.
We're just windmilling.
Yeah.
There's a bit of height here before speeding up again.
Yeah.
Confirm in November, finals 2-1 for high-speed approach. So 35 kilowatts, and I'm only talking about 90 knots or so.
Yeah.
Close the throttle a little bit. Whizzing past the pylons.
Yeah. They're a good fun on the approach, aren't they?
November, climbing away. And even on the go around, we don't really need full maximum power.
You're on low half, is it?
So we're still on 47, 48 kilowatts.
The map's turning red to give you an indication on terrain, is it, as well?
Yes.
Wow. Very clever.
Oh, it is very good.
Yeah.
Okay, so we can't turn before the lake, so we're going to go around the lake this time. You tend to find you get that on touch and goes and low approaches and things.
Yeah, you're a bit shallow, aren't you? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so this one we'll do another low and go, but this time it will be at approach speed in approach configuration.
Yep. What landmarks are you using for the circuit? I know you probably do this all the time, but...
The lake's down there.
Yep.
And we turn base when we're level with the cemetery, and then we just cut straight inside and then round the pylons and in.
Right, yep.
Confirm in November, downwind for low and go. Okay, so once again, brakes are off. Indications are all in the green. We've got enough for a go around, 52%, and seatbelt secure. Okay, so just coming up to the lake. We're getting the speed on the drag curve is really good on this aircraft, so if you can turn the face...
November 02, so head to field 1700 on descent, please study M25, behind, visual.
And Golf Romeo November, just turning finals for 2-1 for low and go. Okay, first stage of flat.
Sorry.
This one's going to be a high one, so we're going to have to side slip. As it's quite blustery and it is just going to be a low and go, I'll do this from flaps 1.
Yep.
To get an idea of how slippery the aircraft is. So we're high at the moment, so I'm just going to side slip down. But ordinarily we're looking at that penultimate pylon being at about 400 feet.
Yep.
And I'm lining up on the windsock because we need to fly a bit kind of a kite-hack approach on this one.
Yep.
So 300 feet. Let me just come in from an angle here.
Yeah.
They were already at 65 knots, but this is going to be a low on go, so I'm not as concerned by that. And we are only flaps 1.
Yeah.
But it quickly goes up to 70. Bit of wind shear. Okay, so we can fly level down the runway.
Yep.
Go for a minute of climbing away.
So is that the official term for it, kite-hack approach, when you have to...
it's a bit like Hong Kong's
yeah,
airport.
No, exactly, yeah.
Or an S-turn, I guess you could use. Okay, so 200 feet.
I know exactly what you mean though, because they had a crazy landing approach for that airport when it was open, didn't they?
Yeah. Would have loved to have seen that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll make this to land this time, as we're now under 50%.
Yep.
And ordinarily, if we're in the circuit and we haven't joined overhead, we fly our circuits at about 700 feet here. So it's just more efficient on the aircraft.
Oh, okay.
Go for November, downwind runway 21 to land. Okay, so brakes off, forward, indications are all in the green. We've got enough for a go-round. We've got 15 minutes, so that's 5 minutes of air time.
Right.
And seatbelts secure for landing.
Cool.
Now I'm going to close the throttle here and get us below 75 knots. Flaps 1. Left to avoid the cemetery. 600 feet at the cemetery. Go for November, final to land, runway 21. A little bit high again. And now I can slow us up, flaps 2. And now we really want to hold 60 knots, maybe 62 as it is a bit blustery. Going to use a little bit more runway than we would ordinarily.
Yep.
Past the last pylon. Okay, just need to scrub a bit of speed. Rest in the rate of descent with a bit of power. There we go, and we're done.
Fantastic.
Go for a November, backtracking, runway 21. Okay, so once we're on the runway, I'll just clean the aircraft up. Flaps can go up. Let you do some of the taxiing back.
Brilliant.
Okay, so you have control.
I have control. So
this is a good sort of power setting.
So this power setting looks good.
5 knots or so, and we've got a ground speed in there.
Do you hold the throttle? Because I'm a.
It's always best to.
Yeah. I feel like I should have a light touch on it rather than a kind of firm hold, because especially in the air, when you get blown about a little bit, you can really like move the throttle inadvertently.
Yeah, and it is very, very sensitive. I mean, unlike in a pistoned aircraft where you end up throttling up. Oh, sorry. Come around to the left.
Oh, are we going over here?
Go through that gap.
Yep. Okay.
In this aircraft, you can go from being 0 to full power in about a second.
Yeah, I find I have to do a lot of, there's almost a massive dead zone in the...
Sorry, just braking a little bit. It was getting a little bit on the far side.
Okay.
It gets very undulating on this bit, so we just want to keep it sort of 5 knots or under.
Quite lumpy, isn't it? Bring it round a bit, just to that bump.
Confirm November, taxi into main hangar.
Wow, that was amazing. So that was very different to what I'm used to. I think actually a lot of what I'm used to is an older aircraft for a start, but actually being electric as well, I think there was a lot more throttle response. You could do things on the throttle which would take a long time for a piston engine to react to. So when Claire landed the plane, she was able to add a little bit more throttle just to arrest the rate of descent on landing, and I don't think you could have really done that with the piston engine that I fly. Certainly
not as quickly. No.
Yeah, but certainly also I think the aerodynamics of this airframe are quite considerably different. So the plane I fly was very much you set it and it went there, and you set the throttle and then you kind of left it alone and it would kind of do what it likes. This is much more, it feels much more agile, and you can almost feel the glider in it, as it were, the heritage of the glider in it. But I really enjoyed that. It was a really, really good flight. Thanks very much.
No problem.
I think what we'll do now is we'll just go and have a quick look at how you charge one of these. So it's a 3-phase and yeah. Cool.
Then you can tap on charge.
Oh wow. And it's all good. That's the pumps in the air on the batteries. Oh, cooling fans. Yeah. And how long does it take you to get back to charging? Is it?
Well, if we set it to 32 amps, that would do it in
right.
just over an hour or so.
Yeah.
But where the aircraft's not flying again, we can set it at 10 amps, which is a bit kinder for the battery, and it'll be done by this evening.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
Well, be done in a few hours.
Yeah.
Basically.
So you've got a choice of how quickly you charge it. That's a really good idea.
Before charging, we get 2 options on the right-hand side. So if you're not using the aircraft for a long time, you can set it to a rest charge, so it'll stop at 50% instead of 98, 99.
And so I get like everything on aircraft is normally done like in hours and things like that. Is it the same with batteries? Do they just say, right, after this many hours you need new ones? Or?
Yeah, I mean, it's similar to with the engine having a TBO on it.
Yeah.
So on these batteries, they're registered for a certain amount of cycles.
Yeah.
So the first ones were 700, and then
Right.
going up to 1,000 cycles.
Right. Yeah.
And just over time, battery improvements will be made that give them, say, more reliability, so the state of health never goes down as often, which means then they can have a higher TBO eventually.
Yeah.
And I suppose in time maybe better capacity batteries as technology comes.
Well, that's exactly what I was going to say. You know, the thing that's remarkable, because this is what 20 something kilowatts. 22 kilowatts with it, or 22 kilowatt hours for all the nerds. I mean that 22 kilowatts was the same as the first Nissan Leafs or the first Renault Zoes, and those batteries were, you know, the whole underfloor of the car. So it's amazing.
This is the size of really 2 computer towers,
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah. And presumably fairly straightforward as an engineering activity to change them. Nothing like changing the engine or.
No, I mean the trickiest bit of the changing over the batteries on this is draining the coolant and reintroducing the coolant under pressure, because it's introduced at 1 bar pressure.
Oh wow, okay, right, okay. So you have to have some
so
special.
The pressure system has to be checked.
Right,
when you reinstall new batteries.
Right.
That's the largest bit of it. Other than that, it would be a very quick exercise.
Right. Hence why leaks would also be bad.
Than something like with the petrol equivalent.
It
would take hours and hours to go for its 100-hour check, or a battery, motor change. In particular, would be an all-day job.
And does it have to go somewhere to have that done, or can the engineering come to you, or do they?
They can come to us, or we're quite lucky that our engineering facility, EvIain, are only down at Rochester.
Right. No, it's really good. Well, thanks very much, Claire. I'm really impressed. I'm really impressed by the whole experience. It's amazing. Really, really good. So there we go then. Quite a day here we've had, filming and taking lots of shots of the electric Velus. I've been really impressed with just how agile the Velus is, and I don't think that's anything to do with it being electric. That's just the very different kind of plane that it is. On the electric side though, I've been really impressed with how responsive the electric motor is in comparison to a piston driven aircraft, and also some of the things that we've noticed as we've been walking around the airfield after we've flown, and other people have been going up as we've been doing some filming, is actually how quiet the plane is. And actually one of the things about aviation is that for those who aren't doing aviation, a lot of people get annoyed by the noise of planes, and when you're learning to fly in an airfield, then anyone living around that can be disturbed by circuit work going on, and a lot of airfields have noise abatement restrictions placed on them. So actually electric aviation for me right now makes more and more sense for flying clubs who are teaching students to fly, not only because the actual costs of running the aircraft and servicing the aircraft should be lower, but the actual noise that is created by the process of learning, doing the circuits and all of that kind of stuff is going to be better for everyone around the aircraft as well. So that's really, really cool. So I think one of the benefits of having an electric aircraft, if you have a flying club, is that you'll be able to use the electric aircraft when the lesson is within the time range of the aircraft. So the aircraft will fly for about an hour. If you are just doing circuit work around the aerodrome, then an electric plane makes a lot of sense. And it makes a lot of sense because it's quiet and people won't get as annoyed by flying an electric plane around circuits when you're teaching someone to fly. But also you're not putting hours on a more expensive aircraft. In terms of servicing, piston powered aircraft is going to entail a lot more expense. You're also not expending all of that money on fuel, and certainly right now I know that my aerodrome is charging a surcharge on fuel because the price of fuel is going up. So that's something again that is going to be costing more money, and learning to fly is an expensive activity already, so it doesn't need to get any more expensive. So I think having that electric airplane in the fleet would help kind of if you're doing your off-cost countries and stuff like that, then you're still going to need a piston-powered aircraft. So you'll take that one for that lesson. If you're doing some circuit work, then you're going to be using the electric, and you'll take that one for that lesson. So, are they going to take you to the south of France? Is it going to take you down to, on a long trip uninterrupted? No, but that's not what this is really about. And I think if I was learning to fly in the piston equivalent, I think chopping and changing from one to the other isn't really going to make that much difference. There are a few things that are different about flying an electric airplane. The one thing I think the most interesting is looking at the kilowatts, how many kilowatts you're using. So we're accelerating to so many kilowatts of energy, because if you completely close the throttle on this aircraft, you're not going to idle. You're literally switching it right off. So any movement in the propeller is just freewheeling the propeller in the airflow of the airstream. So that's quite a lot different than a piston aircraft. When you pull the throttle right back in a piston aircraft, that is not closing the throttle, that's bringing it back to idle, which is still some power going through that. The engine's still running, some power's going through the propeller, and then if you need to put a little bit more on, it's right there. Whereas in an electric aircraft, that was kind of really strange, because when you're closing the throttle, you're completely switching the motor off. So that's kind of the one big difference. I think all the other differences are just kind of me getting used to a more modern aircraft with modern instruments. My aircraft that I fly in mostly is all steam gauges, so a completely different type of experience. But a really, really good experience today. I'm glad I did it. It's definitely the future. It's definitely the future of learning to fly, and I think that there's nothing really to fear from electric aviation. It's certainly not going to overtake piston engines for longer journeys just yet, but it's amazing to see that in 10 years they've taken what was a battery that would fit underneath an entire car in terms of size, 22 kilowatts, down to something that's still 22 kilowatt hours, into something that will fit in an aircraft. And for me, that's really, really impressive. Anyway, we'll leave it there. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have enjoyed making it. If you did, don't forget to like it, share it and subscribe, and we will see you in the next one.